Okay, we should be live. Let me check. Yeah, okay, we're live. Okay, welcome back to another Rookie Rescue. Today we're joined with Neset or Neset. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. I'm Neset. I'm the team captain of 3747 The Hive. We've won U Utah Inspire 2 years in a row, and last year we won Worlds Motivate 3.
And then Word Don't Blink, obviously. I'm Arav, joined with,
I'm Nehal.
Hello, and I'm Marsh.
and last year we won Inspire 3 at the NJ States and Inspire 2 in the Ochoa division at Worlds. And today we are just going to be reviewing Neset's Worlds EP and just saying what makes that a good EP. So I will screen share that. Um, do, do, do. Okay. Um, Hive Mind Robotics. So if you want to look at publicly sourced EP, there's this website called Hiveman Robotics, which has a lot of EPs as you can see. And then here we have Nesets. Let me share my screen. Okay, so do you want to just walk us through your like step by step your EP and how you approached it?
Yeah, just starting off, this was made in Figma, which is a free platform that you can use. I decided to use Figma rather than like Canva or Google Slides just because there's more customizability. Um, This cover is it's just a wireframe. It was pretty simple to throw together. And the background is like something I generated with a plugin, and then we have like our table of contents and sponsors. It's pretty
Yeah,
simple.
I think the most important part is this table of contents. We did that too, and I think it helps the judges look exactly where to find each individual word so they know how to grade you based on that.
Someone in the chat is just asking if you could repeat what software you used.
We use Figma, Figma.
Yeah, we used Canva, but is Figma like more like it's just more customizable?
Yeah, there's just more features that you can do with it, more stuff. The main thing is there's vector editing, which it's basically like a lower powered version of like Adobe Illustrator if you've ever used that. There is kind of a learning curve, but
Hmm.
if you want to do something that looks pretty good, then you could use Figma. Canva is also a really good option.
Yeah. Okay. And then do you want to talk about your first page?
Yeah, so this intro, I do want to say one thing about this portfolio. Most of it was done in the span of like 5 days, so there are some stuff that I probably would have done differently in retrospect, but like this is just an intro saying like a overall team goal and talking about what like our outreach goals are and what our story is, like introducing the judges to our team. And then we
Hmm.
have a little bit about our season plans and about our recruiting and training.
So when you made this, did you like go through each individual award and look at that criteria?
Um, Yes, with the other pages, yeah, this page was sort of like thrown together with st stuff that we couldn't fit in other pages and we still
Hmm.
wanted to fit in the portfolio. Um, if I were to do this differently, I would probably put the table of contents on this page and then have like a little summary about each award, what we have for each award, and that way we'd still be able to fit some stuff. Um, but the general thing that you want to do with an introduction is introduce your team, which is what we have at the top, and say some like overall goal or
Yeah.
theme that your portfolio is going to follow.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
start our EP off with like our individual team members and then our goals for the season as well as some of our plans we have for our season, like our budget and our timeline.
Hmm.
Yeah. And the next page, one thing that I would recommend doing when you're making your portfolio is plan for a double spread. So like the idea is they would see the first page and this page at the same time. And this page is about each of our team members and then their individual goals. And then we also have some like team organization plans about how we're organized as a team. Um, and this is a pretty simple page. We're a large team, so it's kind of hard to fit all the people, but if you have
Yeah.
like a smaller team, then it's easier to fit everyone.
Yeah. And then I noticed you labeled this motivate. Do you do that for all your pages, just labeling which award it falls under?
Yeah. Yeah, and that helps the judges quickly find which like if you're a motivate judge, you don't need to be looking at the robot awards, so they can either use the table of contents or when they're going through the pages, they can see, okay, this is motivate, this is the page that I need to read.
Yeah. And then also the color coordination, I think that also helps with the judges just visually looking at it. Like I can clearly tell your programming and your business and your mechanical. And then do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so if I had to say one thing I would do differently, I would start my outreach pages with some kind of goal or some kind of theme that we follow. Last year, our outreach was kind of like all over the place, so we didn't really have like an overarching goal, but like if you have a specific thing that you've been working on, like say you've been working on growing robotics in your state and you started a bunch of teams, then that should be like your goal, especially for this season with the Reach Award. But we go through the teams that we mentor, and one thing that I really like about this page is for some of the teams, like Cyber Viking 1 and Cyber Tigers, we have like little quotes of stuff that they've said. And I think that helps connect to the hearts of the judges a bit more. And
Yeah.
then we have stats and then like a little plan at the bottom.
I like your map here. I think it just shows how visually like you've helped so many teams and it just like shows that outreach and that reach you have as a team.
Yeah.
Yeah, also it's like easy for the judges to see too.
Very visual.
Yeah, and then continuing that, we have stats, and then one of the things that we had to like one of the hardest things about this page was that we have a lot of events, and it's kind of hard to fit all of the events. So
Yeah.
we talk about a few of our like really strong events, and then next to them we talk about similar events. Like for example, we talked about our FLL summer camp, and then next to it we said, hey, we have all these other summer camps, and this helps because the judges don't have that much time to look through the portfolio, so they can quickly skim, but they can also see, hey, they have all these other events, and when they come to pits, they can say, okay, I want to know about this specific event that you like had a little mention about, and I think I want to learn more about that. Um, and having the stats helps as well, especially for skimming.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's really nice how like the numbers are really big, so that way a judge can just see like how big your impact really was just by looking at the page.
And I think again, you said that the judges only have a couple of minutes to look at it. Packing up like a lot of information that teams have is kind of hard. So like you gotta make it as visual as possible and like highlighting these numbers up here, I think is like very beneficial. Like I can see as a team you've connected with 12,000 people. I think that's just very good for the judges to just see as soon as they open the page. And then you
And
want to
then
talk about this?
yeah, so for funding, one of the things that I think that a lot of teams miss with funding is they just talk about the money that they have, and they don't really talk about like a plan that they had for their money. Um, and so that's a good thing that we have in like the bottom left corner. We have the money, and then one thing that I think also helps is we do have a pretty big budget, and it's kind of like we want to talk about the impact that our money has because we do like spend a lot of money on our community as well. So I think um, and like the bottom right corner, those are actually repeated numbers from above. But the nice thing is for a Connect judge, the Connect judge is probably not going to read the Motivate pages, but the Connect judge can see that little blurb and go, oh, they actually have like a big impact. And maybe they get interested and go back and, skim the Motivate pages.
Yeah, I think as you said, the plan, I think you just absolutely need. And more than that, I think what helped us as a team, and I'm sure helps a lot of other people, just again, going through the competition manual, checking the award criteria and what you need, and making sure you have each individual component.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and I think
another adding on to that, sorry. Um making sure that you like legit say the words that they have in their list. Like they have a list of like financial sustainability plan. And so you can just throw that word on there and then they're looking for a financial sustainability plan. They'll see that header and they'll instantly go, "Okay, I'm probably going to check this off."
Yeah, they instantly know what it's for.
I was gonna say that having like the financial sustainability plans and just plans throughout your EP in general is really important this year, especially with the new award category sustain, which like specifically talks about how you're gonna how your team is gonna sustain itself throughout the years and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And then coming to mentors, again about those plans, we um I would probably put a different title, but we do have like a plan for how do we acquire mentors. A lot of teams they'll just say, "Hey, we have all these mentors." And it's like, okay, well, why? Why do you have the mentors? What do they do for you? Um,
Yeah.
and we like to talk about one of the things that we did this year is like we our mentors didn't just talk to us, they also helped other teams and we brought them into first. So we like talking about that. In like the bottom right corner, I think that's something unique is like uh mentors don't like we want to talk about what the mentors do for us and how they are successful and how we've been improving as a team because of the mentors. And the last thing is like uh again there's like a visual page of like you can quickly see all the mentors, but the need fulfilled that I think that also really helps because it's like well, why do you have the mentor? And that's a need, especially for last year. It was, I don't exactly remember what the criteria was, but it was something along the lines of like you need some kind of need or something, some lesson learned that you've learned from the mentor. And that's what that checks off that criteria.
Hmm. I think a lot of teams just throw their connects on there. I think it's, as you said, important to see what they did for the team. And I really like this information cascade chart, showing how your prog mentors teach your programming team members and then teach other teams that you mentor, and then your design.
Yeah. Before we get to design, I want to say the split for this portfolio is 6 pages of outreach and 9 pages of robot, and I think that's a good split. I think that's what a lot of teams do. But you can do like a different split, like 7, 7, 8, or 8, 7. Um, okay, and then coming to strategy, this is sort of like an overview page for the
Hmm.
coming pages. Um, and it'll make more sense when we get to the other pages, but coming with like an overall strategy and goal. And again, like having goals in your portfolio helps a lot of like, why did you do what you did? You need to have some kind of goal of, okay, this is what we wanted day one, and this is how we achieved what we wanted.
Yeah. And then I know for design award last year, the design strategy and your goals for this season were definitely a criteria. So making sure that those are highlighted is like, again, super important. And then yeah.
Yeah, and then this is an overview for the robot. With I like this page specifically because it's an overview because it shows like we had 3 iterations of the robot, our version 0, version 1, and then our version 2. And then
Hmm.
and then it has a few like highlights. Um they're kind of like small on the screen, but like the purple highlights of the robot showing like these are specific things that we'd like to point out to you. If you're gonna skim our portfolio, this is what we want you to read. And then
Yeah.
with the versions talking about what we the I there should actually be a key on there, but there isn't because I ran out of time. But the green is like stuff that we did good, yellow is lessons that we learned, and red is stuff that we didn't like. Oh, there is a key. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
There positive attributes, lessons learned, and negative attributes. Especially last year, lessons learned is a really big thing. And talking about, our previous versions, they both had positive things and negative things, right? You don't have a version that was all bad. Um, so you want to talk about the stuff that you want to talk about the stuff that you learned from building that robot and from that iteration.
Yeah. I know for our design page, we had greens and reds and lessons learned for each iteration that we showed. And did you have any other spot where you showed other iterations? Because I know as a competitive team, you have so many iterations and you can't showcase all of them.
This is an overview page, so if we go to the subsystem pages right below, there'll be specific iterations. So
This
all of
page?
yeah, like all of these pages. So we do pages based on like we do an overview page, and then we have each of our subsystems has its own page,
Hmm.
and we do like a few main versions or iterations that we like highlight. Um, it's kind of hard to say like we have like for the Speciarm we probably had like 50 to 100 iterations, but it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to say we had like to go into detail about each iteration. But this helps because we can talk about the overall versions. And again, we have the lessons learned on the right, the and following the same color scheme. The green is good things, yellow is lessons learned, and red is bad things. And then our version 3 at the bottom explaining how does our final version work and why is our final version good and consistent.
Yeah. And then I really like the bolding of again the things you want the judge to see. Um, I guess a question for rookies would be how do you choose like what you want the judges to see?
I think especially with like bolding is like I think one thing that I like doing is when I'm going to a page, right? If I can read the page in like 30 seconds to 1 minute, what do I want to learn from the page? Like what's my overview?
Yeah.
And I think one thing that's really good practice is like um sometimes you'll have text that goes too into detail about some stuff like you're talking about, why you chose the color of filament that you chose, which doesn't really help the judges with anything. And so it's good
Yeah.
to skim your page and then go through the criteria and see, okay, what is in the criteria that the judges need to get from this page and understand from this page, and why do they need to understand it?
Yeah, I feel
Hmm.
like something you do really well is that like each like picture and just in general, everything actually has a purpose. Because I noticed that a lot of rookie teams, they kind of just like throw stuff on there, but like actually understanding how this adds value to the page is really important.
Yeah, like you have to be really intentional with like what you're putting on the page, especially because you only have a limited amount of pages and like you can't make your font size as small as you want. So you want to make sure that you're very intentional with what you're putting in your EP and it's very consistent with the judging criteria.
Yeah. And then again, this is a sort of interesting page because this was a page where we didn't have that many iterations.
Hmm.
And it kind of follows a different flow than the other pages because it's a really unique design. But this is one thing that I like about this page is that it has like the problems and then the solutions. And that's another thing. Um, your designs, especially with robot or and with your entire portfolio, everything needs to be intentional, right? One of the questions that a lot of rookie teams don't answer is why did you do what you did? What problem did you solve? And following the problem solution workflow really helps the judges. And then also showing like your drawings and your brainstorming. Because if you remember earlier, we talked about how we go brainstorm, prototype, and then into CAD. And this is where we're showing, hey, we actually do the brainstorm, and then we go into our CAD. And sometimes we'll show a prototype as well. And then we show like um, the problems that happened within our designs and talk about, okay, this was a problem that we had to solve, and this is how we solved it. And another thing is like goals for CAD. I think I think a lot of teams will throw like with their robot, they'll throw something together and it's really good in the portfolio, especially to be very intentional with why you did your design and what your goal was for the design, right? Like,
Hmm.
for example, I guess for this year, say you're designing a shooter, right? What is your goal for the shooter? Do you want it to be adjustable? Do you want it to be consistent? Do you want it to rapid fire? What are your goals? And then how does your design reflect those goals?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
And
really important because I think like judges especially want to see your thought process more than your final design. So I think you do a really good job of like going through like your thought process. Okay, this is where we started and this is where we went, and then here's some problems we faced and here's how we fixed it.
And I wanted to ask, in the judging room, do you bring anything to show the judges, or is it just your robot, yourselves, and your EP?
Um, we do, so this was kind of a mistake on us just because we ran out of time, but we are like this year we're bringing parts to our judging, specific iterations that we want to show from the past. But one thing we do that I think is really unique is we actually have a TV screen that we bring to our judging.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we've been doing that for a few years and it's been really successful. We just have like a cart that we got from Amazon, a TV, and then like a battery. And that helps us both with our presentation slides. So when we're talking, we have something to reference, but also we can do video demos. Last year at Worlds, we were told that we weren't allowed to do a live robot demo. And that kind of hurt us a lot because some stuff of our inner robot we really wanted to demonstrate live. And so
Mm-hmm.
instead, we took videos of our robot, close-up videos, and then in judging, we were like, hey, look at the screen. There's a video showing how this works. And that helped the judges visualize what's happening and understand it better.
Yeah. I think what you said about bringing parts in is actually very helpful for the judges. I know we brought in two iterations of our intake last year, our two major iterations. They were obviously like a lot more, but the major iterations we brought in and showed the differences between them to show why we chose to switch and what we came to.
Yeah, and again, like the judges want to see your thought process and your iterations more than they want to see your final robot.
Yeah.
And then this page, I think the highlight of this page, and again follows like the version stuff, but the highlight of this page is math. That helps a lot for, especially for the Think Award, is you
Hmm.
need to have some kind of math, some kind of calculations that you did for your robot. Um, Last year we did it with the inertia and torque of our slides, like what kind of motor do we want to choose, and we had a pivot, so we had to choose, where are we going to balance the weight of our pivot, and then
Yeah.
we actually supplemented this with our presentation. In our presentation, we skimmed it and we were just like, we did this math, you can find it in the portfolio. And that way the judges have a reference to and then to look for when they have the time to look for the math. Um, and you could probably summarize this a bit more and make it a bit smaller, but having that math and having like graphs and intentional, like this is why we chose the motor torque is really important. An example this year you could do, for example, like drivetrain math. Like we this year for our portfolio, we did calculations for whether we wanted to use 435 RPM motors or 312 RPM motors, and we
Hmm.
ended up choosing 312 because we wanted more torque, and we calculated that the acceleration of 312s would actually be faster than the 435s.
Yeah. I think this page really like is made for like the technical judges who like want to see their math. There's always those judges who love math, and we've had so many, and like in the Q&A especially, they'll like ask you about your math and how you went about solve like doing these problems for the Think Award especially.
Yeah, I also like how on this page, like in terms of formatting, you have the math in a different color, so it really stands out to the judges. If they were just skimming through, they could see that, wow, like this team like did a lot of calculations to come up with their final like RPM.
Hmm.
Also, one thing that I like about just like your subsystem pages in general, so I feel like each page has like its kind of own feeling, and I feel like a lot of rookie teams especially might just kind of like have the same formatting and then just change around the mechanism and stuff. So I feel like it's important to kind of give it each page its own kind of personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is we actually dedicated 2 pages to sides. So we had one page that was like math, and this was meant for like the double spread. This one page is
Yeah.
like math, and then the other pages are iterations. Um, and like for the sides, we actually had not that many iterations, so that way we were able to go more into detail about our specific iterations. Like our biggest thing was we switched from string slides from to belted slides. Um,
Yeah.
and then like I would say a highlight of this page, if you scroll down, like it's also like all the images, but also the CAD renders. And if you see
Yeah.
each of these pages, they all have images and they have renders. If you are able to do renders, they'll help you a lot. especially with some of the pages they have like analysis within CAD, and that helps a lot for Think and for Innovate is like, you know, in CAD you were doing intentional design, you were doing intentional analysis. And then showing the pictures helps a lot for stuff like these slides. We can't really bring an extra set of slides because we don't have an extra set of slides to
Yeah.
judging. So if we have pictures showing proof of, this is what we actually did, not only is it visual, but it also shows that we did what we did, and it's easy for judges to quickly skim and see the progression.
Yeah, that's why you need to document every iteration you do. As a rookie team, I know it's like easy to forget that. So that's why you just need to take pictures of everything. And going back to your renders, I think renders are actually very important for your EP because not like a lot of times your pictures are not going to be as clear as a render can be, where you can just isolate one specific subsystem. And
Yeah.
then this page.
And then like talking about the simulations, like that's the intake is an example of we did like I think it's a cross-section analysis of the intake. Um and there's like with the lessons learned, there's like decision making. And also one thing that like this page I would highlight is when you have a prototype and you're gathering data, it's really good to show that data. Like we thought a lot about, should we do a motor, should we do servos, what RPM is the best, and what kind of intake would be the best. And we took note on, the pickup speed and the different angles. And this is, this like chart is proof of that we actually did that, and it's also shows into peek into our decision making and why we made the decisions that we did.
I actually really like your chart. It's actually super nice. Yeah. Yeah, let's go to control.
Yeah, and then
Also,
control.
wait, before we go to programming, we have a question in the chat as well. What rendering software do you guys use?
Um, we actually just use Fusion. So we do all of our CAD in Fusion, and Fusion has a really easy rendering suite. It is like I am not a CADer, and I was able to figure out Fusion. These renders were really easy to make, and they're pretty fast to make as well. You can do them in cloud if you have like not the best computer. You could also do them in Blender if you know how to use Blender, but Blender is really complicated.
Yeah, I think Blender does produce good renders, but like this render out of Fusion is just like it's good. Like you don't need anything that
Yeah.
professional. Like this is like already like really good. All right, now we can go into control.
Yeah, control. One of the biggest things is again, have goals. We had a control goal at the top. This is what all of our things want to accomplish. I think our control wasn't as strong last year. But like as an example, we show the progression of our decision making, and we switched from Roadrunner to pedger pathing. We talked about, okay, why did we switch from Roadrunner to pedger pathing? What are like the libraries we use? What was the stuff that we did? Um,
Hmm.
One thing I would say that like with control, it's really good to get into like sensors and automations that you do. That's one of the biggest things. And like, why do you have the sensors? So we
Yeah,
we don't have that many. We didn't have that many sensors in our robot, but we talked about like this is our sensors help us a lot, and like that's why we implemented them because we don't just throw sensors into our robot for no reason. And another thing is, especially when it comes to control, you shouldn't spend your entire time explaining, we use pedger pathing. This is how pedger pathing works.
yeah,
I don't think it's as strong to explain your pathing library, especially when it's something that you didn't create. And it's more important to, gloss over and say like, hey, we do use pedger pathing. Pedger pathing is a pathing library, and keep that short and sweet, and then go more into detail about custom stuff that you did, especially with sensors. And there's a lot of stuff you can do with sensors this year.
yeah. I think for control, most important thing is talking about how you optimized your teleup and your autonomous as much as possible using these sensors and again with your custom pathing in your page row versus Roadrunner.
Yeah, and remember that control judges, they're the only judges that will able to see are going to be able to see your robot in the matches.
Hmm.
So it may be useful to point out some stuff, like, this is what our current autonomous is able to do, this is what our current teleop is able to do, and that's how it works. And then when they watch the match and they see your autonomous and they see your teleop, they'll be able to see, okay, wait, that's something I noticed in the portfolio, and I see it working in the match really well.
Yeah. And I think on that note, you should also talk about um like again your fail safes, but also like if something does go wrong, like what do you do to fix it? Like not with your control or not with your sensors, but like with your controls on your controller.
Yeah.
And then
Um,
you want to talk about teleop control.
Yeah, we split ours into autonomous and teleop, but we have one thing we have that this was kind of filler, but we do talk about programming conventions a little bit. Um, and this is you could probably highlight this better, but we do have like a with our controls the config mode in the teleop modes. That's something that is a failsafe where we can reset all of our zeros and we're able to do a lot of stuff within the match really quickly, and that allows us to, recover from some if something messes up. Um, One thing that we did last year is autonomous ascent. So that was completely autonomous, and that was one of our highlights. Is like we just with like the click of a button, we were able to ascend,
Mhm.
even though our ascent was like multi-step. Um, and then also talking about driver feedback. And your main thing for control should be what are you, especially for teleop, is what are you doing to make your drivers' lives easier, and what are you doing to, uh, be prepared in a real match scenario? Do you have a backup to reset all your zeros? Do you have um, autonomous parts of your robot? If you have an indexer, for example, like a spin dexer, your spin dexer is going to be automatic. So you can talk about that. Our spin dexer is automatic, or we have automatic shooting or stuff like that. That your main goal is how do you help the drivers?
Yeah, totally agree. We have one question in the chat. Is this not too many words? I think they're referencing somewhere up here. Um,
I would say 100% yes. This entire portfolio, um, like so the portfolio process is generally you'll write stuff and then you'll make it look good and then you'll cut stuff or like edit it, right? Um,
yeah,
I got the first two steps and I didn't get the third step. This portfolio was done like um, it was done in like 4 or 5 days just because I was busy with programming and then I was like, oh shoot, I have to finish the portfolio. Um,
yeah,
and it was done like I pulled I think quite a few all-nighters and we finished it the morning of judging, which I would not recommend, especially at
yeah,
World. It's like an unfamiliar environment. Do this way beforehand because um, over the summer, I did go through the portfolio and like cut a lot of the text, and I was like, yeah, like half of this text does not need to be there. There's no reason for it to be there. It does not add to the judging, and you don't want to make your text as small as possible, even though that's like an instinct of like, okay, let me make my text as small as possible and write an essay. Judges aren't going to read that, right? But if you
yep,
make your text, if you make your paragraphs shorter and you make your text bigger, then judges are able to quickly read and they're able to get the same amount of detail that they're going to get anyway. So you don't need to dig into all the details.
yeah. So how much text would you say is like needed?
Um, I would say like you should keep everything to 2 to 3 sentences. And do like think about bullet points, right? Everything should be in bullet points. Like paragraphs are not something that are good for you.
Yep,
Um, Especially because like judges don't want to read paragraphs. When you look into like um the way that humans read, they'll read like the top of a page and then they'll just skim the left of it, right? But if you have bullet points, if you have like an essay, but if you have bullet points, they tend to read like the first sentence of each bullet point really quickly. And so that's why like in some places you'll see there's bullet points, and I would say that a lot of this could be transformed into bullet points and shortened to like 2 sentences.
yeah. I don't think there's necessarily a max you can have. I think just you want to make sure every word has a meaning and there's not like any filler words where that they just don't mean anything and they don't contribute anything to the judges.
Yeah, and just remember that like your goal is to check off their list.
Hmm.
And if you're not, if like you have a paragraph or if you have like a sentence that does not help at all for them to check off their list, then it shouldn't be there. There's no point of it. Even if it's something really cool that you want to showcase, like, you know, um, if you're talking about the story about how your robot got its name, that's a cool thing, right? But is that something that should take up space in your portfolio? Probably not, but it's something you could definitely mention. Like, if you're talking with judges in the pits and you're like, here's a cool fact that I want to tell you about that kind of helps with team spirit. But the portfolio's main goal is to check off their list.
Yeah. Okay. We have almost 2 minutes left in the Zoom. Um, if there are any last questions in the chat, or Nehal or Arsh, do you have anything you want to say? Okay. And then I don't see any other questions in the chat, so I think we are good here. Thank you so much, Nisa, for joining us. And this is Rookie Rescue. You can expect the next Rookie Rescue in the next week or two. Thank you.